Greetings, campers, and we are live. Well, I was right. The argument made by Pence's attorneys, which were the Department of Justice lawyers, was very good, and it was strong. So you should check that link. It was a short little blurb. The decision came out last night, and I was reading through the comments on the live stream, and I saw Saratoga uh, Prepper. Was it Sarasota? No, it's Saratoga. Sarasota's across the way down here. Said the case was dismissed, and sure enough, it popped up. I pulled the document, and I'm putting the first link in here that is the actual opinion. And that's basically what he says. He says there's no standing. Now, this begins a whole philosophical approach, but this actually is a great opinion, very instructive, because it goes through here, I'll read a bit of it. I was going to do it on the big screen, but I didn't want to bother setting up the background. I've got too much to do right now, so I'm giving this to you here. And the bottom line is case is dismissed without prejudice. I was also correct that there was no request for relief of seeking an injunction against Pence, creating a case or controversy, prohibiting him from following the what are we calling that? The Electoral Counting Act of 1877. So that basically meant that they're on the same side of the argument, right? But the argument or the reasoning by the court is saying that the relief being sought is speculative. The injuries are speculative. They're anticipating what third parties may do. Those third parties are not party to the action, right? The state legislators from Arizona are in the action. The governor of Arizona is not. Pence is in it, but there's anything that could happen is speculative. So it's like, it's a what-if deal. Essentially, they're saying that they don't do advisory opinions. They're asking for declaratory judgment, but without a case or controversy as determined by the U.S. Constitution, which is intended to limit the federal courts. And there's really good language in here where he's saying that it's not to be a supervisory position over the government, that the courts are not to do that. But he goes through the 3 U.S.C., which is the code section, which is the Counting Act, the Electoral Counting Act. And he goes through the Constitution and explains the difference. And this is very coherent and worth reading. Excellent acknowledgement and analysis. All right, so case dismissed without prejudice, so it can be refiled. Next link is Ann Vandersteel, and this has Lynn Wood on it. And Lynn Wood is in there, and there's a few very interesting things in here. A bit of hopium, but also Lynn Wood comes in, and Lynn is saying that he doesn't believe Pence will accept or certify these, what should we say, the disputed states, because his reasoning is that Pence claims to be a man of God, and as a man of God, he cannot swear to a lie, which is interesting. I like the reasoning. Let's see how that plays out. Next, Sidney Powell. This is from a couple of days ago, discussing the election. I had seen this when it came up. I lost it. I couldn't find it again. I found it last night, and I listened to it. This is interesting. It's kind of a Christian station, and Sidney goes through the discussion here, and it's very important. However, this is before we got these decisions and before we got the opposition papers from Pence and Pence's lawyers, and clearly before the dismissal. However, she was instrumental in this. So after you read this opinion, you non-lawyers will see the amount of the research and reasoning where you cite a case and say the reasoning in this case would apply here. And the court goes through it and says, we disagree, or that is distinguishable on the facts and the law. It's a very interesting opinion, highly worth reading. It's an easy read, I actually blasted through it with good lighting this morning. Um, it's unfortunate it was dismissed, but the way it was framed is incorrect. I guess Sydney did not look to enjoin Pence from following the 1877 Act. If it was formatted in that way, I think they would have had a better argument, right? At least based on this opinion. But I still believe that Pence has the authority under the 12th Amendment to accept or reject these, what are they calling them, the slates of electors appointed and certified by or sent by the states. This is very interesting stuff for sure. So her discussion in the third link is also very instructive. I think that starts around the 18-minute mark, though, right? Next, we have new information stuff. This is off of where? This is from the Gateway Pundit, and I've got two links here. These are fascinating. Fake ballots destroyed in Fulton County. I know there was a lot of comments in the the live chat last night about that. Not in the comments, but in the live chat, which really kind of goes into the ether and accomplishes nothing. Thus, it's off today. And then we have our man Patrick Byrne, who said he had a video of this, and he's got some pictures here. So definitely check this out because they have a copy of the tweet that has the pictures and Patrick's tweets showing these ballots. And right after the Georgia, I guess their legislature said they're going to, what the hell was it? They were going to question this or something. These ballots, shredding trucks roll up, rented rider trucks roll up, and these ballots are destroyed. This is pretty amazing, which again brings me to the point. Why wasn't Dominion named in the original complaints, including the Secretary of State and the governor? This way they would have jurisdiction over them. Reading this opinion, the first link, you'll see how the court has to have subject matter jurisdiction, and they don't have it in this case of Gomert versus Pence because there is no case or controversy. And the line that everybody's playing is a great line by defense counsel on that. And the line says, this is wow, it was great. It's so great I can't remember it. This is a walking legal contradiction because there is no case in controversy, right? Anyway, so Sidney discusses the election, fake ballots destroyed in Fulton County, and he says that the video is too long to upload, I guess, into Twitter. All right, now, moving back to our flu thing. The DoD flu vax study, which a comment was put in, and I copied it and put it up for the viewing of our viewers, campers, and commentators. The flu vax study, and this is on PubMed, fascinating, showing the increased risk of COVID-19 for those who have taken the influenza vaccine well now. Interesting theories about that. Raven had a good theory in there. I had pinned that comment, and then our friend Lynn had put a comment up about the schedule, as I asked, for the events going on January 6th in Washington. And I pinned that. So that one is pinned now, and you will see who's there. And there is a good lineup. I know Del Bigtree is there, and a bunch of other people really against the vaccine thing and against this whole COVID thing, which is good. I know that, what's her name, Ann Vandersteel, is she's going to be there speaking at the Supreme Court. I didn't see her name on this list. So it appears that there is some attempt to disrupt the dissemination of information again. Imagine that, right? So that's the DoD flu vax study. The one under that is from the Gateway Pundit. The sequence is off. This is another one. Now, this is curious, and I didn't really comment on the New Year's Eve thing, but Ann Vandersteel, on that link that I gave you from last night, what was that, January 1st, New Year's Day Eve, has an interesting picture of de Blasio and his lovely wife, and the wife is wearing one of her masks. What is a designer COVID mask? What a joke. However, on the side of it, it's got the little pedophile symbols of the triangles. So it's right on her face, in our face. So these two fools, the leadership of New York City, man and lovely wife, are dancing on the stage. In the meantime, they had shut down Times Square. I had watched 15 minutes of that earlier in the evening, and they had some concerts there, and the concert was done on a stage, and they had behind it was like all the tech crew, and in front of it was a space like you would have for to keep a crowd back from the stage, filled with purple and yellow beach balls because it was sponsored by Planet Fitness. And then you had some people there that were on little what do we want to call them? The little electric carts that would be part of a parade type thing with purple and yellow, those squiggly fill-up sticks, kind of like the pool. What do they call those things in the pool? We hang on to them and kick around and float, right? Get a lot of them down here in Florida. It's a stupid word, but anyway, it's just nonsense, complete nonsense, no people there. But here's the link. Wuhan has a big party. New York City and London are closed. Why is it that Wuhan, China, the epicenter of the origination of this virus, allegedly, is having a monster party? You could check out this link and scroll down there, and you will see a little video and the crowd. Although a lot, if not most of that crowd has their little happy masks on, but again, it would be known as Communist China, and as such, the mandates are very severe, strong, and enforced, right? Okay, now, I've got a bunch of interesting links. Continuing, Storm Clouds Gathering is a guy I had followed for a long time, and I had put a link to one of his things, I don't know, a couple of months ago. This is a new one that popped up the other day, and I wanted to share it. I didn't see it on his YouTube channel, but this is on his website. I think I got it in an email. And it's talking about the collapse of the 2020s. And then there's another one before that. Very philosophical, kind of big picture analysis. Take a look. You might find it interesting. I'm sharing it with you because I figure there's so much information. Why not throw a little more at you? I like this guy's perspective. He set up a situation in, I guess, South America that is a self-sustaining, shall we call it, a non-Klaus Schwab community that is self-sufficient. It's an interesting scene, but he is very conscious. Now, a very interesting one under that is the vote count in Arizona here is analyzed by a math expert. This is amazing. And the guy who does this is a bit of a fluffer. He was screaming how Trump is going to win, and I think I put a link up to him. It's ridiculous. But the clip that he inserts here is worth watching because this is like a serious person who had another serious person. They had 800 volunteers in Arizona door knocking, and they were finding the dead people that voted on the record. They just did that through voter polls or rolls. And they also found that there were a lot of people that didn't exist that were also reported as voting. That's very weird. And she says that the population of Arizona increased, I guess, in the last 10 years by 40% or 44%. But the voter rolls increased by over 200%. How does that work? Let me guess. This is probably the same people that responded with 2.5 million mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania when only 1.7 million were sent out. How those numbers don't work, huh? Well, over here, she said, it appears that there's between 160,000 and did she say 400 and some odd thousand ineligible votes or, fake votes in Arizona. And this would clearly have the impact of changing the election. All right. Now, After that, this is great, and I know some people were making comments about a week ago about Lin Wood being a villain because he had represented defendants that the commenter didn't like and figured that anybody who's charged with a crime must be guilty and therefore shouldn't be entitled to challenge the evidence to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt because they are what? Presumed innocent, not the way our little Orwellian Bolsheviks want to run this game, until proven guilty by a jury of their peers. So defense counsel gets to present that defense, just the way Sidney Powell did for General Flynn, just the way she did for Arthur Anderson, and established how the Justice Department was making up crap. The U.S. Supreme Court reversed that conviction unanimously. Interesting. But this is a great speech, and I had mentioned it in response to the comment. This was put up in March of this year, of 2020, and she is speaking at Hillsdale College. Is it Hillsdale or Hillendale? I think it's Hillsdale. And it was in Naples, Florida, of all places, the home of Sibel Edmonds and her latest campaign, which I think is coming along nicely, and I'll report back more on that in the near future. However, this speech is brilliant, and it is Sidney speaking, and I was just watching it, and I cut it short because I wanted to come and talk to you. But this is well worth listening to because it gives her resume and her background and her experience, both in the Flynn case and several others. And she wrote a book called License to Lie. And she is talking about the corruption in the Justice Department. She's saying about 5% of inmates in state and federal prisons in the United States are completely innocent. Now, personally, I've always had a huge problem with prosecutorial misconduct. And I remind you of the lacrosse players case up in North Carolina. The Duke lacrosse players were convicted by the press and prosecuted by the district attorney, when in fact they were completely innocent, and that district attorney fabricated stuff, refused to disclose proper DNA tests, which proved the guys didn't do anything, and that these women were lying. Now, what is that? That is a political prosecution for his own benefit. It was a racial baiting game. It was black victims and white assailants, allegedly, and it didn't wash. This lawyer ended up getting sentenced. The district attorney got sentenced to 1 day in jail, and he was disbarred. Well, I think he should have done a whole lot more jail, and I didn't follow how much money these guys got, but their lives and their reputations were tarnished and smeared. But this again, prosecutorial misconduct. Sidney's speech here is great. If you're going to, well, all of these links are good. I'll tell you, take a quick look through the Gomert decision. This is very instructive, and you'll understand the process that the judge uses. I think it's an excellent opinion, and you know, it's unfortunate. I would have rather have seen it framed a little differently and ordering Pence to not comply with the 1877 Act, which is what, the Electoral Counting Act, right? But, okay, it's not banned. It is without prejudice. So they could refile. Let's see how this plays out. Vandersteel is good. A lot of interesting nuggets in there, and Lin Wood. Sidney Powell discussing the election is also real good, and her litigation, but that's from 3 days ago. And then you have the little tweet on Fulton County with the ballots destroyed. This is disturbing. How is it that these people are allowed to destroy evidence during an election? It seems to me that this is, what do we want to call this? Not aiding and abetting, but an accessory after the fact in covering up the evidence of a federal crime, as well as supporting a coup. And election fraud can be argued that, again, this is essential infrastructure, critical infrastructure. So you could argue it's an act of war. Does not have to be a foreign power. It could be an insurgency, which is what it certainly appears to be in multiple states. And if they were influenced and funded by foreign money, that adds further argument. A lot of interesting stuff happening. Let's see which way this plays. And then the vote count in Arizona analyzed, and the Gateway Pundit showing us the big party in Wuhan. Why are they celebrating? Are they celebrating because they fired a torpedo into the rest of the world and have imposed their communist dictatorial agenda, and they're suppressing and they're restricting and making the people become faceless, mindless, mask-wearing, faceless, mindless herd that will follow their instructions and all get in line to get in line. I had to throw a Zeppelin line in there for you, right? Misty Mountain, huh? Just then a policeman said, hey. So, but I love the Sidney Powell speech at the Naples, Florida thing. It is good stuff. All right. I will be setting up my backdrop so we don't have to look at the magic mirror. And we will be doing some interviews. I'm not sure when, but it will be happening soon. The sun is coming out. I've got lots of stuff to do. It's a Saturday, so I wanted to come out bright and early and wish you a happy Saturday. Take a look at this information, and you will definitely be an informed citizenry. All right, if you like the thinking, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe. What did I say? Like, share, subscribe. And I thank you for the support for the channel, and I urge you to continue doing it. The PayPal link is there for a direct contribution. Patreon account is there to join up. And I did not respond to my PayPal contributors, and I will be doing so. Instead, I did this for more info for you. We will see you all later, and thanks again. Bye for now.